I want to understand the nuance because I always, hindsight being 2020, I've been an entrepreneur 16 years. And one of the hardest business models to do in the Philippines is B2B.
I totally agree.
I
feel you. I feel you.
Number one, there's several reasons why it's so hard. Every B2B is, I don't care how big it is, even if it's the whales of the whales here, they're all price sensitive. So your pricing will always, they'll ask, really? Is that it? Can you give me a discount?
Yes, yeah.
Oh
yes.
my fucking God, right? Your margin's already slashed by default. Number two, 92% of businesses in the Philippines do not pay on time. The bigger they are, the worse it is, by the way. Man, I've had my second startup was a B2B. There's a big conglomerate, took me a year to get paid for a basic ass chatbot. I'm like, what the hell? By the time I'm getting paid, you're paying for the obituary because we're already dead, right? And third, the amount of hoops and loops you have to go through just to be able to get a yes.
The process.
My God. Man, I thought kissing ass was a thing, but you have multiple asses you got to kiss out here? It requires a lot of persistence. And that's what I want to understand. The nuances. I'm pretty sure this is not the same in Aussie. You're probably going to have two really good conversations, then you're it. Maybe that's just me oversimplifying, but what was that transition like? Hyper-localizing to a country that's built for you to really make it difficult from the get-go.
Yeah, I think that was spot on. And I have to say that we're still learning and navigating.
Yeah.
Especially myself. But yeah, so Australia, the market like Australia is very transparent, right? The rules are set out. Actually, one step back. In Australia, I never had to deal with B2B, right? Because it was basically utility scale, right?
Yeah.
B2G, right? And the only B2B is where I sit at the top.
Right.
Because my EPC contractors, have to take my term, right? Makes sense, right? So, so once I sign up a PP, and in Australia, the only B2B that we might be on equal level or as a developer on less equal level is the offtake. But that conversation typically are with electricity company.
Yes.
Which the other side, they're very professional as well. So we can actually, so I recall, the Sunraysia project, the PPA.
Yeah.
From term sheet to signing of that PPA was 5 weeks.
What?
Super quick. And we didn't even actually have a term sheet. It was literally me and the team.
Just shook hands.
Went onto LinkedIn, trying to find the right person in AGL. Rocked up to the office. Told the lady saying that this is what we can offer from our solar farm.
Wow.
She goes, why don't you send me an email? We sent the email, high level terms, because we knew what we were selling.
Yeah.
And AGL knew what they would wanted to buy. Wow. So it was basically one email, and they said, look, I like the terms, I like the price. Let's basically sign a contract.
That's unheard of. Nobody does that here.
From email, not even a proper term sheet. From email to signing, 5 weeks, right? Why? Because our counterparty is super. They're not just professional. They're market industry experts as well, because they're a power company. Yeah. They buy and sell power on a daily basis. They know what they're buying, right? So we're the solar generator. They're the buyer. So in Australia, I was never exposed to the B2B scene, never, right? So even when we actually did residential, that was really B2C.
Yeah.
Right. Consumers' conversation are easy.
Yeah.
Right. Because there's emotions.
Decision maker is already there.
Yeah, exactly. And there's emotions that you can basically tap into, right?
Correct.
And B2G, G is easy as well, right? Because it's just government process, right?
Because you have a functioning government.
We have, we had, relatively, right? So when I actually jumped into Birthday in 2024, so that was like when full time. I started in 2023, and then came in full time in 2024.
Yeah,
I realized this is a very different game. I mean, the technology is the same. The value proposition is there. Yeah. When it actually comes to execution, it's very, very different. It's exactly what you said, B2B, right? Because we're dealing with private entities, right? We're dealing with, large conglomerates, large corporates, and we're also dealing with basically SMEs, and we're also dealing with what we call we sort of categorize the market into two tiers. You got the
Right.
tier ones, which is the multinationals, the local large corporates.
Yep.
That's the tier ones, and you got the mid tiers, right? Mid tiers are basically private family owned businesses, been around for decades, right? So that very very distinctive,
Multi-generational at that point.
multi-generation. So I think all of them have its challenges, and all of them, and there's always where there's a will, there's a way, right?
Yeah.
So we had to learn it the hard way. So for large corporates, it's just process, endless process, under process, endless process. So
It's Kafkaesque.
it's
There you go.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I question myself, why am I spending 2 years of my life for a 1 megawatt deal?
Oh my
Right?
God.
Where for a large scale utility, you probably already got the project up already.
Yeah.
But that's the nature, that's the value that we're creating for distributed energy, right? So that's why the investors and the shareholders of Verde, they actually appreciate that, because it's actually the hard work that's actually, hopefully they're appreciative.
for sure.
Yeah, it's a hard work that's, it's literally hard work. So for the large, so coming back to your question, the nuances, right? So the first year, from 2024 to last year, 2025, my sole focus, other than basically the business, right, coming in and trying to lead by example and trying to change the management sort of culture and style, was really to actually get myself out there to make friends,
Wow.
great friends, right? So even though I've only been in the Philippines for 2 years now permanently,
Yeah.
but I think I have so many friends,
Nice.
so many friends. I think friend really makes a difference, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So and the good thing I think about the culture in the Philippines is, people are so friendly, right? I mean, like, this friend, and then he says, "Oh, let me introduce you to that." Like,
Right.
there's always an angle. There's always it's a relationship. B2B is about a relationship. It's about trust,
Yes.
right? It's whether you can deliver or not, you have to, but the first gate you have to go through is actually trust.
Correct.
Right? And if you want to build that trust from scratch, it's going to take years. But if you have basically a friend who can vet for you and know you, it shortcuts. I think that's very, very important, right?
Yes.
So that's kind of the first lesson that I learned when I came to the Philippines. Because in Australia, you didn't need that many friends, right? And the people in government,
Very transactional.
very transactional.
straightforward.
Yeah. And the people in the government, they don't really want to be your friend, because they're just like, oh, I just want to, so making friends is the first thing, right? Bringing friends, and then so therefore you still have to compete, on the equal level, right? But the referral, the name, even though, let's say, you're actually, surprisingly enough, even though Philippines is a very populous country, you got 140 million people, right? But the people of the decision makers, or the people who can actually influence decision, it's not a very big circle.
Yep.
It's not a very big circle, right?
Yep.
So I guess I learned that in the first year. So key is to get exposed, right? Saying, hey, look, he's Morris, because I guess in the end of the day, people want to know who are you, Morris, not the company, right? Who's the founder? Your personal story.
They buy you first.
The buy first, the personal buy first, right? Friends, and then I think so that's very key. And for the large corporates, it's like I said, it's the process. For the mid tiers, it's really the introducer.
And they're the most demanding too, by the way.
It's the introducer. They are very demanding. They're very demanding. But I think it's an education process. Here's the thing, right? It's an education process. And I think, and what's interesting is, despite the tragedy that's actually happening in the Middle East, but given the fuel disruption that's actually happening in the Philippines and the cost of living rising quite dramatically, a lot of the decision makers, a lot of the conversations that we had last year, like even though you go to the decision maker, you show them value proposition, you show them the maths, they still take their time because they're not convinced, right? But given the recent disruption and the cost, rising in living cost, a lot of these decision makers are now coming back and say, okay, let's hurry up, right? Because this is the first time in many years where we as a company can go back to our client and say, if you don't sign up by next Friday, the price is going up.
Wow.
So there's a FOMO that's actually happening in the market.
Of course.
Right? But whereas in the past, because there's the default position is, solar's just going to get cheaper next year, the year after technology is going to improve. But what they've actually realized this year is not only is the fuel cost or the cost of living going up, the cost of these products, the panels, the transportation costs, the logistics, the freights, everything is all going up. Peso's depreciating, right? To historical low. So literally we're now going back to clients and say, well, there's only so much we can do, right?
Correct.
And if you haven't locked in the deal, then sorry, cost is going. So now there is a sense of urgency, right? So, but coming back to culture, I do agree with you. It's a jungle. It's a jungle to navigate. Still surviving, still alive. But it's fun. It's fun. It's fun.
That's why it's more fun in the Philippines.
It's definitely more fun.
Cray out here, bro,
yeah. Very fun. Yeah.
But I want to understand one thing, because again, you said it right. Each solar player out there now is dealing with this same problem, and I've been hearing it for months now. Sir, there is a supply problem out here. So I want to understand. Obviously, you want to deliver the goods, but how are you able to bridge that supply problem if it's literally an arms race?
Yes.
And to deliver the promise.
Yeah. So the fact that personally myself, I've been in the industry long enough.
Yeah.
So all the major equipment manufacturers, the CEOs, the CFOs, the founders, obviously we have past, working relationship from Australia, right? So that actually helps. Plus, Iceberg Capital, they are also invest into, other solar farms around the world, right? So they've got very big purchasing power.
Yep.
So, the manufacturers, offshore manufacturers, they know that we're basically big client and we're a credible client of theirs, right? So when there is a basic surge in market demand, naturally, as a manufacturer, they will give preferential treatment to the long-term working partners, right? So that's just how business
That's a
works.
cheat code right there.
Yeah, right. So we do have that, advantage edge. Second of all is that prior to this price hike, we already saw it coming. We already saw it coming, right? So because it's the silicon price is going up, the Chinese government is actually rewinding the VAT refund, et cetera, et cetera. Like it's not like it happened overnight.
Right.
So we have actually entered into strategic supply frameworks.
Love it.
With OEMs.
That's smart.
Right. So we're happy for them to float the price. The price is the price determined by market, but we get priority shipping. Right. So hence, therefore, our projects don't get delayed, or worst case scenario, don't get started. Has to be delayed. Because of we can't get stock on panels or inverters or transformers. So this was already planned towards the end of last year.
Wow.
Yeah, towards the end of last year.